Let's
All
kick
right.
it off, boys.
Well, we are back. We had a long
Good to be
summer.
back, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to see you guys. It's not good to see me, but it's good to see you.
It's always good to see you, bro.
Aw, you're so
Always
sweet.
good.
What about you, Austin? You want to say anything nice to me?
I missed you
Never.
so much.
See, I was gonna say Tylone was my favorite, but then you just said that, and now you're
Yeah,
my favorite.
Here's
that's all I needed.
I'm feeling the love. I'm feeling the love. So we're back. As you can tell, I've moved, and that was a big part of why we kind of set on hold the podcast. Is it just was a lot of craziness. I think with
Yeah.
all three of us it was,
Life
but
happens, man.
yeah, seriously. So it's it's nice now to be back. We've got everything settled. Everything's feeling good. And we just want to get back into the swing of things and really keep the podcast going. We're going to be doing at least one podcast every 2 weeks. And we want to keep going with that and see where that takes us. Hopefully, we can pick it up and do more, but that's where we're at right now. So, hopefully, those who are regularly tuning in can kind of expect that. Tonight, what we're going to
I
talk
told you
about.
we were picking it back up. You know who you are. We were picking it back up. We just needed time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, anyway, what we're talking about is we're going to be talking about emergency preparedness plans and kind of what would happen in emergencies. We all live in kind of different situations. We have different, personally, where we're kind of have different situations too. Not all of us have a huge bunker filled with food and water and huge backup generators. We're all in our own spaces. And so I want people that are listening to kind of think about where we're at and kind of think of where you're at and see, oh gosh, okay, this might be the things that might happen in my neck of the woods, and I probably should get some more water. I might need to get a I don't know, a generator or something. Something to think about. But the whole idea of this podcast is to get your brain going and thinking about it. So we're going to cover basics. We're going to talk about where we're at, and hopefully that will help you kind of lead into what you might need to do next too.
But I mean, how are your guys' stuff looking already? Like what, how do you feel like you're set up right now? My food is dusty, old. I haven't I haven't looked at it until we, needed like a can of corn or something.
So you've got 3 kids, Tylen, and then you've got you and your wife. How much food do you think that you've got saved up to last you? 2
I
weeks,
think
2 months, 2 years, what?
I think realistically, if we were to have something happen right now, and this is a buildup from a couple years back, thinking a solid 2 weeks if we stretch it,
Okay.
and that's a serious stretch. Like,
Yeah.
me,
Rationing food
I
or
got emergency reserves packed away in here, boys.
So what you're saying is you've got your family's got 2 weeks, you got 2 years. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm good. I could go on a hunger strike and last at least 150 days, at
Heck
least.
yeah. Heck yeah. Awesome. I think I'm kind of the similar as you, Tylen. Since I've moved, I've got a bit more room to put food storage in. I've got a little bit, but I think I'm at about 2 weeks, honestly.
Yeah,
And I
moving makes
definitely
it
want to
hard.
increase that. One of the big issues I've got is water. We've got a
Yeah.
natural spring where we're at that is away from city water, which is nice, but I should still have a backup.
I was
And I
gonna
have.
bring that up. I don't have. I have what is called the canal down by my house,
Hmm.
and in fact, Costco was selling their life straws. Did you see those?
Oh yeah, I almost
They're
picked some up. I forgot to.
like
I got
three
2.
packs of them. Three
Nice.
packs of them. And I just stash them in, like, 2 for each vehicle, 2 for each backpack we have. I'm ready. But yeah, it's that water source, and that water source is like very sketchy because it could be shut off at any point, you know. But I could
Yeah.
drive up north maybe 20 minutes. But then, you know, now it's a drive 20 minutes, hike maybe 2 hours just to get water. Yeah. It starts getting really tight.
Yeah, I can get that. What about you, Austin? Where are you at? I feel like you probably are the most prepared out of us.
I think
He
you're
is.
right. Not to make
He
you guys
is.
feel bad, but I think I
No,
have.
no.
I haven't done
No.
inventory of it all recently, but it's probably between like 6 to 8 months worth of food storage, including freezers, and then water is where I'm
I
actually lacking as far as like stored water. It's only like 10 gallons a person right now.
now we know whose house to go to. You know,
Yeah,
like
now we know who to raid.
we're coming.
Perfect.
We're coming over. We're coming over here.
That's a good thing to be at though, honestly. Seriously, that is good. Water wise, if your water got shut off, are you on city water?
We are on city water. Spanish Fork River's close. Provo River's not too far away either. If I'm super desperate, I'll go drink out of that nasty lake and probably die.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna
Do
say
have,
you're gonna grow an
do
extra
have some life straws. I do have like a pump water filter that I could fill up containers with and
Yeah.
take it back home too. So
I've got that as well, and that's the thing is that would be probably my first bet.
Yeah,
Is
you
I've
guys are on a
got
well, right, Sagan?
say what?
You guys are on a well, right?
Yeah, well, it's a spring, so it's a spring that's it's
Oh,
not
nice.
just here, but like a couple of homes around us are not connected to city water, from what I understand. We are connected to a spring that's up in the mountains, and that's where
Mm.
we get our water. That's as far as I know how it works, which is
You
really
got
nice.
all the deer
We
peeing in it, fish peeing in it.
Yeah, yeah, the best stuff, the good stuff. But that is
I'd
one
rather
nice
have
thing
that
with
than
water-wise. I've
arsenic.
got 3 reservoirs nearby. I've got the Provo River as well.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of I know of springs, natural springs that are about maybe 30 minutes away too. It's why I haven't done as much as I probably should because I do have water filtration pumps like you do, Austin. And that's kind of in my thought process. I'll just get water, but everybody and their dog's gonna be doing the same thing. So it would be good to have some just in case too. Um, that's super important is water.
oh, and I have a dog just in case.
Yeah, there you go. I've got my buddy Preston, and he was telling me he's just one guy, but he's like, I'm gonna buy a year's worth of food and water. And he's a lonely
Mm.
bachelor, and literally he has one entire room of his house that is just filled with food and water.
Oh, dude, that's a
And
killer.
it's definitely prepper status, but then I'm thinking in the back of my head, he could live in his house with no problem. He doesn't need anything. And that's got to be a freeing thought that I
It
just
really is. I remember, you know, we got to test a lot of that a couple of years ago. Don't want to bring it up. Don't want, you know, algorithms shutting us down because of saying a couple words. But there was that event that happened, and I remember standing in the grocery store, just like looking at nothing on the shelves and finding whatever was available, you know, because we had stuff, but I knew stuff was gonna start getting ripped off the shelves. So ashamed to say, but I went and filled up as much as I could, and much as my paycheck would allow, and
he did what everybody else
family,
had to do too.
family comes first, man.
Yeah, and it's
Not saying we didn't have a food storage set up, but it wasn't what it is now,
yeah, yeah. And I think that
Like, we
that's
wouldn't have gone hungry, but
I think it was a good wake up call, that whole situation. I remember myself going, "Are you kidding me? I do not have toilet paper," and having to go to my parents and ask for toilet paper. And at a certain point, because it was about 2 weeks where I had to steal toilet paper, it was ridiculous, right? And so I actually, even from our store, I ended up stealing some toilet paper. I stole
you
like 2 or 3 rolls, but I
you know
had
what
to.
place what place always had toilet paper?
Where?
My work. So I'd make sure to time my duties at the right time.
You were doing your duty. Yeah, I mean, it was a weird time. It really was, and I think it was a good thing for a lot of people to go, "Okay, things are not as permanent as we may think."
Yeah,
Supply lines get cut quick, and everybody
yeah.
thinks, "Oh, well, I'm the big macho man, and I'm gonna go I live close to the mountains, and I'm gonna go up there, and I'm gonna go hunt down a couple elk, and I'm gonna come and I'll be good for the year."
They
And
don't
it's like,
they don't exist. A friend told me they don't exist.
no, we found out ourselves when we went hunting for them. We found
I
nothing.
know. Austin is the friend that told us, "Hey, we're just doing this for fun. Elk do actually not exist."
Yeah, they do not exist. But that's the
Yeah,
thing is if
speaking of hunting,
everybody
actually,
go ahead,
sorry.
Austin.
Speaking of hunting, during that event, um, I'd actually taken an antelope the year before, and we we ate off that for a good little while.
Yeah.
Rob lost the job, so we're just like back down to one income when we really needed to. So we ate the antelope while that was going on, and that really helped pull
Oh,
us
that's
through
a
it.
good point.
You just gotta do what you gotta do, and I think that's the thing is, like, hunting is great, yeah, hopefully, but as any hunter will tell you, the second that you have a lot of people up in the mountains looking for deer and for elk and for whatever, all of a sudden they disappear because 'cause they're not that stupid. And so if you think you're gonna be the one guy who's, yeah, okay, deer are still stupid, but they're smart enough to not get annihilated, right? And so, like, if you think that you're gonna get away without having, "Oh, I'm gonna be the guy that gets the deer," well, you might have 1,000 or 10,000 other people thinking the same dumb thing, and what
Yeah.
happens if you get a deer and somebody else doesn't, they see you coming down the mountain with it, and they go, "Well, I got a gun with me." It gets real dangerous real quick. So, it is good to have food already available, you know, and water. I mean, all it takes is one person going, "You know, I could make a lot of money because 'cause I've got a lot of guns and a lot of friends, and I'm gonna block off every access point to a water source." What do you do?
Yeah. Luckily, speaking of that event, nothing got that severe. I think honestly, Black Friday seems more aggressive than what that
Yeah,
event was a couple years ago. But that that does show like how scarce and extreme things could be. And I feel like, people rely on the government to just fix everything. It's like, oh, they'll get the supply lines fixed back up. They'll do this and that. Will they?
yeah,
Who's
that's
they, right?
always the
Who's
question.
and that's where the whole point of us wanting to start this self-sufficient lifestyle of like banding together as a community, not relying on bigger sources other than your close community and yourself. Um, it's that different style of life where we take care of each other and you know I think
Yep.
uh, I think with that idea is where we would like to push it home of like basics. Make sure you have your medications. Make sure you have um, source of water and at least 72 hours of food. At least.
And that's the thing is most of the time it's not gonna be something that lasts for 2 or 3 months, right? I mean, hopefully not, because that's when it gets really icky. But even look at Hurricane Katrina. That's a really good example of people going, "Oh, everything's great," and then a natural disaster happens, and all of a sudden there's looting, there's people dying, getting robbed. I mean, there was like bands of people just going through people's houses and stealing crap and stealing their food, and it was a whole thing. And the government
Kinda
was
happened in
worthless in
Hawaii.
that situation. Yeah, or
Yeah, look
Hawaii.
at
That's
Hawaii.
an even more current subject. Yeah. Hawaii it's a train wreck. So these things are good. And you brought up something really important, Tylen, and that is medical. And I want you to kind of talk about that, or I want to talk a little bit about medical and like shelter.
Well, I
And
know, with
and
my
I know that you,
schedule,
especially because your wife has a medication she has to take all the time.
yeah,
Um, I want you to
this
kind of
isn't
share that and
something
what you do with that.
this isn't something that you can manufacture yourself. This isn't something that you could, you know, hope to find more of in a of facility. Like, it has to be refrigerated, it has to be brought in, it has to, plans set in place, right? And you come to a realization that, like, that is one of the biggest deciding factors of, it's like, okay, uh, well, this is priority number one, and then, water and food and everything's, takes precedence afterwards. So you need to eliminate that as a priority, because um, it's such a rare, scarce thing that makes it extremely difficult. So I feel like the the best way to do that is to talk to your doctor, right? Um, and I know that some doctors are more difficult than others, but if you talk to them in the scope, or the span of, like, hey, I would like to have a reserve. I've heard, I haven't tested it, but I would like to try this out. That if you tell them that you're planning to go on an extended trip overseas or anything like that, that you need, like, to a not established medical, like it buying, going in and getting medications is not feasible, then they will help um, give you and prescribe you extra. So, but we have been able to sort it out with a doctor and have a supply. I think it's a year supply right now is what we have at last. It's not the best stuff, right? As long as it's refrigerated, it doesn't wear out, so that's good. Um, but it for a while there, I was really stressing out, because we have been in situations where it's like, oh crap, we don't have any of it. We just moved to a new town. We haven't established a doctor. We haven't established whatever. It was poor planning on our end, but also crap happens.
Yeah.
Um, Specific doctors for this are few and far between. And one solution that we found was in our community, in our religious circle. We were able to reach out to a group of our congregation, and they hooked it up, right? They were like, we've been there, it sucks because this stuff isn't over the counter, right?
Yeah.
And it was a huge blessing, of course, but that was what scared us into, like, okay, we need to have a plan. And that was about 6 years ago. It was
Yeah.
like, we need to have a backup, because you never know.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Um, Austin, I imagine that you probably are beating us on this too. I know, and that's all super important, Tylen. I think that people forget their prescriptions a lot.
yeah,
But I think the other side of it too is your, medical, and I mean like first aid. Do you have first aid kits? Do you have trauma kits?
yeah,
What can you prevent? What can you treat? Um, because if you're in a natural disaster, like let's say a natural disaster happens, I know this is something that's because you and me, Austin, we live kind of close, is a concern in Utah is an earthquake. And I would say that's very similar probably for you as well, Tylen, living out in Nevada. But earthquakes are a thing, and they're
yeah.
expecting to have a really bad earthquake in the West in the next few years. And if something like
Which
that happens, say one of your kids gets severely hurt, how are you going to deal with that, especially if everybody else and their dog is also hurt?
Yeah, antibiotics, those will be worth gold.
Yeah. So where are you at with it, Austin?
Doing pretty good, actually. My
I knew it.
in-laws gave us a really good, well put together first aid kit that they built themselves. It's this giant bag full of
That's
everything.
awesome.
Nice.
Like, what do you
And
mean everything? Are you talking like bone shears, like chest crackers, like what do you got in this kit here?
I mean, obviously your basic first aid like Band-Aids, antibiotic cream.
what kind of
Nice.
Band-Aids? Do they have SpongeBob on them, or is it Dora?
Neither. They're plain Janes.
I thought you had everything, but
Plain
that's
Like
fine.
disguise.
We'll look over it for
yeah,
the time being.
Look, and if
suture
it was any
kit.
kind of character, we know it'd be Bluey. Okay, this
Yeah.
is the Bluey
Yeah.
house.
Let's be honest. We know our kids.
Bluey.
Yep.
But like
Uh,
it's nice to have I'm not poking anything at you. It's nice to have a big kit like that, but knowing how to use it, that is also like that goes in the whole next bit of
But
just
again, I'll
training.
make you bet out of the three of us, probably Austin, you know more how to
luckily
use it than
for
either
me,
of us.
my brother is a paramedic
Yes.
EMT,
See,
so I,
he's
I talk to
he's
him a lot.
so people who know the ways, man.
Well, I got my
Yep.
first aid badge,
Yeah,
and my
There you
kids
go.
are pretty fresh with all their bumps,
Awesome.
bruises,
it's good.
gashes, head injuries, goose eggs. Name it.
All of
It
it.
happens.
I mean, if you at least have a simple first aid kit, that's great, and that's a fantastic start. I think everybody needs a first aid kit. I would say at least a simple first aid kit in your house that maybe is a little bit more extensive, and not just Band-Aids and not just
Yeah,
ibuprofen. I mean, you might want to have a splint. You might want to have, I mean, like a chest compression wound. There's some stuff that you might want to have, right? Uh,
Dermabond. You want some Dermabond.
yep.
or
hmm
and the kid
And I would say in your cars as well.
very
That would be a
valuable.
really good thing is to have. I mean, I have in my car a trauma kit as well, and my wife has one in her car as well. And I think that those are at the very least a good start.
Yeah,
Another thing to think about is shelter. I kind of brought it up a little bit, but say something happens and the heat's out and it's winter. How are you handling that situation, guys?
Easy. I got that tent stove. Gonna bring it in the house. Got some elbow joints. I'll pump it out a window to the
there
smoke.
you go.
That's
That's
right.
it.
You have this whole planned out. I forgot we talked about this.
Dude,
That's it.
I went
Yeah.
hard on this.
Luckily, we've got probably at least 5 blankets to a person around here, so it's nice too. My wife loves putting blankets together.
Well, thankfully for you too, as you are out in Nevada in that situation, you're gonna get cold, but you're not gonna get cold like I'm gonna get cold.
Oh no, it gets. What are you talking about? It's a desert, man. Stuff
I
freezes
know,
already.
but
It's
but
freaking
you all,
cold.
how cold does it get out there? What's the coldest?
Stupid cold. So basically, deserts. Yeah, they're hot throughout the day, but because the
Oh, I
soil
know how
is
it does
cold
or
in the
work.
day,
I'm saying how cold does it get there though specifically? Do you think in the winter?
it's already getting like below freezing now, and we had a 90-degree day today. So if you put that comparatively, yeah, definitely through 1 year it was like 4 degrees, a little colder than that. Yeah, it gets cold out here, man.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, you almost have to kind of do the backwards way of doing it of like in the daytime, having all your windows and doors open, trying to get as much heat in the house and then keeping
Yeah.
them shut at night kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's for us, luckily we do
Yep.
have a fireplace.
And
And
that's a good point you brought up, Sagan, is like each area is different, man. Like
yeah,
you've got to like plan and prepare for your individual. In fact, um, like a lot of the rhetoric right now for, like, let's say a situation does happen, and a lot of people are like, oh, I would just bug out, and leave. When really your best bet is just to stay put, stay in your home and
Yeah.
work
Your
out of your house.
home should be your fortress because you've got most of your stuff there. I think
Exactly.
one of my favorite things that made me really change things, I watched an episode of Warrior Poet Society, and John Lovell said, I stopped thinking about bugging out because I had a family, and I realized it makes way more sense to bug in. And so he started focusing on making his house his fortress. And that doesn't mean just guns and stuff, but it means
Yeah.
he was talking about how no, he really he made sure he had a farm that like was self-sustaining with a greenhouse and everything, and he really thought about his area in Georgia of what
Yeah.
he needs to stay there and not be reliant on other people, and I think that was really good. I mean, for me, I would be probably my days in the winter would consist of going out into the woods, chopping down trees, hating my life, freezing near to death so that I could just keep that fireplace going. And that is what it is. And we would probably all sleep
Feed-
next to the
Feeding
fireplace
your
there.
parents' horses.
Honestly, probably. We would probably kill at least one horse, keep one horse so that we could drag firewood behind it. Yeah, that's what we would do. So it just is what it is. And that does kind of come back into the last thing I want to talk about, which is self-defense. Like I was talking about Hurricane Katrina, there was Haiti when that whole thing happened with the earthquake. I mean, Hawaii, we hope that things don't happen, but there's a famous quote that says that we're only 72 hours or 9 meals away from total anarchy. I mean, once people get hungry, man, they get hungry. And if it gets bad enough where the government can't bring in food or supplies, uh, you need to be aware of your neighbor who might have less than you and knows you have more, or just is going to take whatever he can get. What are your guys' kind of views on that?
That's why I bought this townhouse. We had thought about getting a end unit and opted for a middle unit at kind of the last decision time period. More defensible that way. Only got the front and back.
That's actually a good
Um,
point. And it
and I
sounds
plan
bad, but if somebody was
on,
looting it, they're not going to pick you first. It's going to be the one on the end, huh?
yeah, the easy target. So
You'll know that they're coming.
exactly.
I like how you saved this topic for the last 2 seconds, because it's like you want to make sure your food, water, shelter, medication is taken care of first. Because, like, obviously you don't have water, you're dead in 3 days.
Mhm.
But, and then like some of the gun nuts that just solely like, oh yeah, all I need is bullets and a gun and I'm good. Because then it's like, okay, that's almost even worse, because it's like you're not choosing to work with your community.
Yeah,
Not
you're
saying like,
choosing to raid other people.
yeah, you are the
And
problem.
that is a really scary thought if you really think about it, to put
Yeah,
yourself in that situation. I mean, just think for a second what you're saying, because people always make the kind of joke, they're like, "Well, if you guys have food and I have guns, it means I have guns and food."
yeah.
Yeah, but you also have to kill your neighbor. Do you really want to
It's like,
do that? Do you really
now
want to leave them
I know who
without
the threat
food?
is.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up. And I know that there will be people that would do that, but
And
yeah,
and so
I
given
mean,
that,
it is better to be the guy who's sitting in his fortress in his little home by himself or with his kids, and they've got a fireplace, and they've got, or they've got their stove all hooked up, and they've got plenty of guns and plenty of ammo, and they've got plenty of food, and they've got plenty of water.
2 guns for everybody.
Yeah, and when you
yeah,
start exactly, and when you start to come in and you think that, oh, I'm gonna bust in here, you're one guy, and even with Austin, He's saying, he's like, "Oh yeah, but I've got 2 guns for every single person in my family." Uh, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we it doesn't matter what gun you've got. It doesn't matter what tactic you've got. Unless you're a Navy SEAL, you're in a bad situation, and that might save you for a day or a week or 2 weeks, but then you have to do it again, and you are putting a
Keep
huge risk
going.
on your life every single time that you try to knock on somebody else's door and break in.
Every time you kick that door in, you are in a threat.
And
But yeah,
they
I
know
feel
their
like,
house. You don't know their house.
but yeah, given that it requires us to, you know, we got to do what we got to do. Not saying that we'll actively hold up everybody because that's stupid, but it is there for that exact purpose. You're not going to come to my house and take what's my family's, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I
Um,
think morally, I couldn't ever think of trying to kill somebody else for food for myself
yeah,
or taking it even by force, not killing somebody even at all.
yeah,
But I will tell you for a fact, if somebody is breaking into my house and I have very little and I'm taking care of my family, I really won't even feel that bad. The only thing that I'm going to be mad about is the fact that I've got to throw their body out, and now that's another thing for me to do. I
yeah.
I know it sounds cold, but if you're in a situation like that, I want to be in a position where I don't ever have to think about that, except for if somebody makes that choice and walks.
But being prepared with it, right? Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
with your home, you should know and actually actively practice going through your home and pretending to defend it, right? It might seem weird or whatever until time comes when you actually need to do it, and then you're like, "Oh man, I wish I would have practiced," you know.
Yeah,
And
absolutely, and
I feel
that's
like
that's
the best defense is, um, it sounds cowardly, but we're all about self preservation, right? The best defense in most situations is not getting in a situation to begin with, right? Having it set up to where if something comes, you always play that role of like, hey, we'll help anybody who's asking for help. But if you're going to be forcibly taking things, sometimes even retreating is the best bet. Having a backup uh, evacuation, right? Running your family through, like, heck, you should already be doing that in the case of like a fire or,
yeah,
you know, some kind of earthquake situation, right? Everybody should have a plan of this is how we get out of our house, multiple different ways, and this is where we meet up, right? So if you're not doing that already and applying that, that's something you can easily do. Like
yeah.
right now, listening to this podcast, get up and mark on your sheet of paper or on your phone all your locations, right? Big windows you can easily get out of and quick access points for everybody, and then have a rally point for everybody. 3 rally points. It's like, okay, if everybody's coming out this way, this is where we meet up, right? Simple. Know your situation.
And I think that makes a good point too. Every situation's different. And keep in mind, your emergency situation may completely fall through. And probably the first thing you should do is start talking about it with your family, making a new emergency plan.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know. You may think, okay, in my current situation, it's very different if a robber broke into our house right now. You're going to do a little differently than if, say, you all are having to stay in a central location, sleep together in one room, right? Say there's an emergency, you'd want to be closer together and with everybody, and have a game plan of what are your angles and how do you escape from there, and all those kind of things. I mean, it's something to really think about, but an active emergency plan is more than just having enough food and water. It's having a game plan with your family. I think that's really important, Tylen. I think that put it right on the nail on the head.
Amen.
Yeah.
Austin, you're like on it. Please tell me you have a binder of just all of your like emergency plans, and you're just because then you would be like you'd be like 100, tens across the board, man.
Yeah.
Guilty, I don't.
You missed
Uh,
it. You missed it.
That's what I gotta work on. It's all like right up here, and I just train everybody in my family whenever I get a chance.
well, that's
And they'll
still
tolerate it.
really pretty good. But it's important.
until he loses his mind,
important.
and then his family,
Yeah.
they can't read his mind.
Well, that's pretty much it. Is we kind of just wanted to talk about that today and get into really starting that conversation. We're not experts on it, like I think I said already before, obviously,
Please.
and that's the whole
We're just
point.
talking about it. We just want to
Well,
shine a light on the stuff that you
yeah,
might not be paying attention to.
yeah, exactly, and to go, hey, you don't have to have a freaking fortress and 8,000 rounds of munition for every firearm that you own, and have
That'd be nice.
a way to make artisan bread from your bedroom, whatever, right? Like, not everybody has it all the way down, and that's fine. But it may come down to, you start thinking about it, you make a game plan, you go, you know what, we need to really build our food storage, and every single time you go to the grocery store, you buy an extra can of beans, or you buy some extra water, or you buy some more toilet paper. And all of a sudden, a year from now, you're going to be like, I'm actually in a pretty good place, right? And it's just going through that and having those conversations, and talking to your family and going, hey, this is what we would do in this situation. Maybe spend an evening talking about it. So that's just kind of what we want to do, is get you guys thinking about it, thinking about what you might want to do and to improve, because we all can improve, except for Austin, because he's pretty much got it figured out.
Nope.
No, none of us have it figured out.
That's probably your biggest problem, is you think that you have it. And I'm not talking about you guys specifically, but like if you think that you're set and you're good and you have everything set up, then that's probably your issue. Like,
Yeah.
where can I? Because no fortress is perfectly defended. No situation has a perfect setup. Like, plan for the worst.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's what we got for tonight. So
Great.
yep.
Thanks, boys. I know I learned a lot. I got a lot to work on.
Mhm.
So
Me too.
okay.
Well, there we go.